Hello guys, my name is George and welcome back to another Hunter's Prestige fitment video. On today's video we're going to show you how to change all the silver on the front of your bumper to black. Okay, tools required for today's job. You are going to need two different types of pick. You have a longer pick and also a shorter one. We also use a trim tool. We have both plastic and a metal trim tool available, so either one of them is more than capable of doing the job. An electric ratchet, which is what we'll be using today, just speeds up the process, but if you do have just a standard ratchet, that is perfectly fine. You need some torque bits for that ratchet as well, which we use a Torx T30, T20, you also need a Phillips, and a 10mm socket and a stubby screwdriver. The first thing we're going to do is start the car and we're going to turn the vehicle wheels to the left and we're going to release the bonnet. Open the bonnet with the catch. The next thing you want to do is remove these Torx and the clips just above using the trim tool, and also your Torx T30. As you can see, we release the top part of that clip and then actually remove it with the bottom part. And obviously using an electric ratchet will speed up the process, removing these torque bolts. Okay, now this is done. There's two tags either side of this top part of the shroud. So if you just release it on the top, both sides, and it should come off just like so. And using a pick, what you want to do is just release this connector. Or you can alternatively use your fingers if you have long enough nails, and then release this clip like this. Using the longer pick, you then want to release the tags on the front part of this bumper. These clips are in the shape of pyramids. It's easy to see when you actually remove it, which we will show you shortly. But you just want to push the little triangle pieces on these clips and that will release that front part of the bumper. Do one side at a time, and we always apply a little bit of masking tape just to hold that in place once we release the other side. Obviously, if two people are doing this job, it is much easier. And these are the clips that you need to release. On each side there is 4. Next up, using the Phillips head on the socket, you just want to release this Phillips screw here, and also this one here, as well as this one and this one. There's 4 in total. We do advise to have a little box handy to keep all of the fixings in that we do remove in this installation. That way you don't lose track of any bolts. And also a good tip for you, if you do miss any part of this video, you can always pause the video and rewind it. Now this is done, you want to get your trim tool. For this we're going to be using a metal one, but like I said, if you have a plastic one available, that is perfectly fine. Just want to release these clips, hold on this weather shield, and there's 3 in total. Now these are similar to the clips that you had on the front of the car when we first removed. So what you want to do is release the top part of that clip, and then using the trim tool, actually release that out. Now these clips are removed, you can now take that shield off. There shouldn't be anything holding that in. Now remember the way that you remove this, because you will need to put that back in when you go to reinstall it. Okay, next up, just behind there, you'll see these 2 connectors. If you just want to release the back of them with the trim tool, and release the connectors. There's 2 connectors, there's a larger one and a smaller one. On the outside of that core panel, you just want to release that little tag. And then using your 10mm, there is a bolt which is actually vertical. Let's take that one out. And then if you look just deeper down here, there is a hidden one, which is a Phillips that you need to remove. Maybe easier to use a Phillips screwdriver if you have one available. But for this purpose, with speed, we are going to use an electric ratchet. Be careful not to drop it. Now that's done, we're going to move on to the next side. So you want to get back in the vehicle, turn the ignition on, turn the wheel, and remove the same screws that we did on the other side. So you have 4 in total. And again, this is using a Phillips torque bit, or alternatively you can use a Phillips screwdriver. And then the next thing you want to do is remove these clips just like we did on the other side, releasing the top part first to allow us to take out the bottom. And nothing should be holding this side on, so we can now release this again. Please note, on some different models, the intercooler is on the opposite side of the vehicle, so just be cautious of this when you're removing any pieces. And again, you just want to release the 10mm, which is vertical here. Okay, next step is to remove the flathead screws underneath the car. So you have 4 in total. That's what we need the stubby screwdriver for. Obviously we use a stubby screwdriver because sometimes we don't actually jack up the vehicle. It's actually easier just to release these. These are the only things we actually need to remove underneath the vehicle, and allows a little bit more space. Okay, next up, you want to run your finger along the bottom of the bumper. Using a trim tool, this is what we're now going to release. Pull down the bottom of that trim and actually create a little gap for you to put the trim tool in. Using the trim tool, we just want to pry around the bottom edge of that, just to release it from the actual part of the bumper. You'll see these little clips and retain it in. These are similar to the clips on the front part of the bumper. So what you want to do is, they're very difficult to actually get to, but you just want to pry it away gently along that piece and they'll come out. Next up, using the Phillips bit, you just want to release these 4 bolts as displayed. One there, one there, one here, and one here. Now we're going to release this part of the moulding using a trim tool. We'll pry that away gently. You can use a little bit of masking tape on the outside of these mouldings just so you don't scratch it in the process. You want to release the tags and gently pry it away. Be very, very careful because this is just plastic. You don't want to break the actual moulding piece. But as you can see, they're the same tags, the retainers that hold that in. Again, you just want to pry them off as gently as you can just to release that moulding. Using the 10mm socket, we'll release the bolts here. Now it is good to note that you don't want to fully remove all of these bolts, as when you get to the last one, this can just fall out. So what we always do is we leave the middle one in just to retain it for when we remove the other bolts on the other side. Now that's done, you can release this part of the quarter panel, pulling it towards you away from the actual car. That will release them tags. I'll do it on both sides, like so. And then you can completely pull away that bumper. Next up, using the T20 Torx bit, you want to release these screws, and there's 8 in total. You need to release these Torx T20s also on the outside part of this bumper. Using your thin pick, you now want to release these tags which hold that front fog light cover on, and you want to do it on both sides. As you'll see, they go around the whole of the outside of that moulding piece. Best way to do it is to actually poke the pick in, and that should start prying away. And what you can do is put your hand on the other side just to pull that through, and that will actually release the tension all the way around. If you are struggling to release that, what we do advise to do is just take off this top cover. That gives you space to actually remove those tags on the inside as well. Then you want to repeat this process on the other side. Until both sides are released. Now you want to turn the bumper over, so now you can work on the front part of the bumper, and you just want to release these Torx bolts here and on the other side as well. And again, these are Torx T20. Flip the bumper back over again, and you just want to release these sensors at the front. Best way to do this is just to release the connector which is attached to that sensor first. Lifting the little red clip, then pry away either side of that sensor. What you can do is you can put your finger on the outside of that sensor and gently push just to release the tension, like so. Using a pick, you now want to follow down the end of that panel and just release the tags and the front piece moulding. Using the same process as we did on the outside fog lamp covers, and also these tags just up the top also on the H-frame, just so we can remove the rest of the silver. Ready to transfer over to the new gloss black. Right, now we want to release this bottom part of the moulding of the H-frame. Just give it a little bit of a tug. Now you just want to transfer the little retainers for the screws and transfer them over to the new piece later on. And the same goes for these little yellow clips here. Take them off. You can either do it by hand, or if you are struggling to get them off, just use a little pick. Now we're going to transfer those bits back onto the new pieces that we've supplied in gloss black. And then reinstall the lower part, just held on by 4 clips either side. So it's important to note the screws that we're going to be putting back in are the ones with more like a washer head and not the more oval round ones. Now that's complete. What we always recommend is to actually spray the sensors, or alternatively you can buy new ones and spray them also. What you do is just transfer the rubber retainer which goes around that onto the new sensor, which is in gloss black. I'm going to reinstall these sensors like we removed them. Now you do have to put a little bit of force on there sometimes. If you are struggling to get them in, you can use a little bit of soapy water mixture just to help it retain in, and then spin it over and just make sure that those sensors are sitting nice and flush and the rubber isn't stuck in any way. If there is a little bit of overlay, or if the rubber's not sitting properly, you can just wiggle that sensor around a little bit and it should sit flush like so. Now we can bring over the support frame and reinstall this moulding. Make sure it's lined up correctly, and you can start pushing in the clips all the way around. Give it a little bit of a tap just to make sure all those retainers are in properly. And then you can reinstall the screws. Turn the bumper back over and just make sure all those retainers are in correctly. This will be more apparent with the bumper turned around the other way, because you can actually see that all the clips are engaged correctly. If they're not in all the way, you can use a pick just to help them in a little bit, like so. And reconnect the sensor connectors, pushing it in and then popping that little red retainer back in. Now reinstall the Torx T20 bits on both sides of that, like so, and also at the top. What we always do, and a helpful little tip for you, is when you're removing these pieces, if you keep all the screws and bolts with the piece that you remove, it's much easier to remember what goes where. Flip the bumper back over, just check that everything is sitting correctly and there's no gaps and it's all nice and flush. Next thing we're going to do is just transfer the fog lamp retainer from the back of that moulding using a trim tool. And again, these are held on by little retainer clips, so if they are not coming away very easily, you can use a little pick just to guide them out. Transfer those back onto the new mouldings, which are in gloss black. And spin it over just to make sure it sits nice and flush around the outside. Now these are labelled left hand and right hand, so if you do remove both from at the same time, they are labelled. Now we're going to reinstall them back on again. So these have retainers. So same again, pop them on to where they need to be, and then just tap them in. And just make sure that the fog lamps are sitting correctly within that. And again, if the retainers aren't all the way through, just use a pick just to guide the little clips. And make sure they're retaining properly. Reinstall the little trim piece that we removed, which just is retained in. You may need to slide it down a little bit, and just make sure it's engaged properly. Now the bumper's ready to reinstall. Now you can put the little 10mm back in the middle there, just hold that in place. Just behind the bumper there is little retainers, just where the bolts go in, which guide it into the correct hole. Then reinsert the core panel on both sides. Tap it in place. Now you can reinstall the 10mm. Tighten up the 10mm in the arch lining. Reinsert this clip, and the weather shield can go back on. Now, key to note, the weather shield does need to go just behind this little clip here, and you can notice it just goes through this air intake. And just make sure the lining sits inside the wheel arch, like so. Reinsert the clips. Sometimes you do need to move that weather shield up a little bit just to make sure it goes in. There you go. And then you can reinstall the Phillips. Okay, next up you can put the Phillips with washers back on underneath. And again, there's 4 of these. It's time to put this moulding strip back. What we always do is square it with a little bit of soapy mixture. This just helps it go in. Sometimes this can be quite tricky putting back in. You can line up the retainers and then tap in place. Or you can put the stubby flatheads back in, which you can see will bring this back up. Turn the wheel back round. Reinstall the bolts removed on this side also, and then tighten up 10mm on the verticals. Make sure that retainer goes back over the side. Reconnect the clips and push them into the retainers. The weather shield can now go back on again. Just like on the other side, make sure that clip is on the outside and it sits just on the inside of the wheel arch line like so. And reinsert the 3 clips. And also the Phillips screws. Now all the parts are back in. Reinstall this piece of moulding, make sure the retainers are in, and it sits nice and flush when you put that back. Again, if you did want to put a little bit of masking tape on there just to protect the body and the paint a little bit, you can do. But our team have done lots of these and we're very experienced putting these back in. Run your line, run your finger along the line just to make sure it's all in place correctly. Okay, now if you are installing a grill light, or if you're just changing this grill strip to gloss black, what you want to do is release this connector with a trim tool, then using a Torx T20 piece, you just want to remove these 4 screws on the back just to release the ACC radar. Take that out, and there is more T20 screws along the strip. I'm going to take them out. That will release that grill strip just there. Push it through just to release that. That should come off nice and easy. And you can reinstall the new one. Now this customer has actually opted in for an easy fit grill light, so we're going to show you also how to fit this. Very simple. Just need to put it up just where the old one went on. Make sure the wire doesn't get kinked underneath that, and reinsert the screws. Obviously, if you are just fitting the black strip, obviously you won't have any wire in there. It's much easier. Reinsert the badge, which just clips in. And you should hear a click. If you are fitting a LED grill light on there, you also do have a fitment video on this, if you have the Easy Fit or the First Edition. I'm going to reinsert the ACC radar, which is held on by the 4 Torx screws. And reclipping the wire. And we're now ready to reinstall this. And again, just put the retainers in place where they need to go either side. Pop it in place, like so. Reconnect this connector and push down the grey clip. Get the top shroud, put the retainers either side again. And you know if this is in place because all the holes will line up, like so. Reinsert the clips at the top. And also the screws. There we go. Close the bonnet. And then what we always do at this stage is we always walk around the vehicle. Just make sure the parking sensors go off correctly when you walk around the car. It's quite handy to do if you have a second person who can walk around the car and actually check those sensors. Or alternatively, you can drive up to a wall and slowly approach, making sure all the sensors are going off correctly. So there you go guys, that is the end of our fitment video on how to remove the bumper and also how to change all that trim from silver to black. Couple of things to note: once you've completed the installation, it's always good to check your parking sensors just to make sure they're operational, and also your fog lights are working as they should as well. Another thing to note, our front bumpers do not come with pre-drilled holes, so if you do live in the US or somewhere which doesn't require a front number plate, there's no holes there, so it'll be nice and flush for you. But also if you live in the UK or somewhere that has to have a front number plate, obviously you will have to pre-drill your holes, so obviously line up the number plate where it needs to be, make your holes, or alternatively apply it with 3M tape. We're always there to help with any questions that you have, and as always guys, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe and hit that bell notification, stay up to date with what we're doing here at Hunters. See you on the next Fitment video.